The first rule of Barreti Global's internship program: be invisible. Isabella Cruz had survived 12 days by mastering it. Keep your head down, type fast, ask nothing. Then her supervisor thrust a notepad into her hands. East Boardroom. Take minutes. Don't speak. Floor 42 smelled different leather and old money. Isabella slipped into the last chair, pen ready, eyes down. Luciano Barreti entered like winter itself. No tie, no smile, just a three-piece suit and eyes that assessed everyone as either asset or liability. The room stiffened, voices dropped, even the air felt thinner. Isabella focused on her notepad. The presentation began. Oceanic Holdings quarterly report, revenue projections, offshore accounts, all perfectly professional, all perfectly wrong. Her pen stopped mid-word. The cash flow didn't balance. Transfers of $4.2 million posted every 14th at 3:17 a.m., but Oceanic's weekly revenue was half that. Someone's stealing from him. The consigliere, silver-haired, confident, leaned forward. Oceanic is clean. No irregularities. Isabella's mouth opened before her brain could intervene. That's impossible. Every head turned. Luciano's gaze found her like a sniper sighting a target. She felt her pulse in her throat. The transfers repeat. She heard herself say, same amount, same time, every 2 weeks. But the source revenue doesn't exist. Someone's using your infrastructure to move money that isn't there. Silence. The consigliere's face drained of color. A man across the table shifted his hand toward his jacket. Luciano stood, walked toward her. Each footstep deliberate. He stopped close enough that she could see the silver threading through his dark hair. You see patterns. It wasn't a question. Numbers don't lie, she said quietly. People do. Something flickered behind his eyes. You just exposed a thief in my inner circle with a pencil. He turned to the room. Out. They left like smoke clearing. Now it was just them. Do you know what happens to people who embarrass me? His voice was soft, dangerous. Isabella lifted her chin. I assume I'm about to find out. A ghost of something not quite a smile touched his mouth. Come with me. Where? Somewhere we can talk without witnesses. He extended his hand, not to help her stand, to claim her cooperation. She looked at his hand. At the door. At the choice that wasn't really a choice. Then she stood without taking it. I can walk. This time, he definitely smiled. She expected a basement. Maybe cable ties and cold concrete. Instead, marble floors, abstract art, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan's glittering sprawl. Vivaldi, playing softly. A fire in the hearth. Luciano poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Isabella stayed near the door. Am I being detained? The door's unlocked. He gestured to it. But we both know you won't leave. Because you'd find me. Because you want to know what happens next. He set a glass on the table between them. Sit, or don't. Your choice. She didn't sit. What do you want? To understand how you saw it. My forensic team missed it for months. My consigliere built it like a vault. But you. He studied her like she was an equation he couldn't solve. 22 years old, no clearance, no training. You saw it in seconds. It wasn't magic. Fraud hides in repetition. Real business is messy, different amounts, different times. Criminals love patterns. They can't help it. Where did you learn that? My father was an auditor. He taught me to follow the silence. The numbers that don't speak are the ones lying. She paused. He died when I was 16. Luciano's expression didn't change, but something in his posture softened. Just slightly. You're either a Barreti spy, he said, or the first honest person I've met in 10 years. I'm neither. I needed an internship, that's all. He almost believed her. She could see it in the way he tilted his head, reassessing. Let me go, she said. I won't tell anyone what I saw. You know too much. Then, what are you going to do with me? He walked to a hidden panel, pressed a code. A door slid open to reveal a bedroom minimalist. Expensive, with a view of Central Park at night. You'll stay here. Tomorrow, you work. Work? Work? She stared at him. Doing what? Finding the rest. He met her eyes. Before it kills us both. His phone buzzed. He answered in Italian, sharp, clipped. Sì, no. Lei non è una spia. Scava più a fondo. He hung up. The Barretis are asking questions. About you. Isabella's stomach tightened. Why? Because someone talked. And in my world, curiosity is usually fatal. He stepped closer, voice dropping. You're safer here than anywhere else. She wanted to argue, but the look in his eyes wasn't threatening. It was something worse, protective. Rest, he said. Tomorrow, I'll show you how deep this goes. He left her alone in that beautiful room, but hours later, she heard footsteps outside her door. Not pacing, not moving, just standing. She pressed her hand against the wood, knowing somehow he was on the other side. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them left. Morning came with coffee and a problem. Isabella found both in the breakfast room a silver tray with espresso and croissants, and a man standing by the window like he'd been carved from stone. Marco, Luciano's driver, 50-something, with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow and eyes that had seen too much. He's in meetings until noon, Marco said without preamble. You're not to leave this floor. I wasn't planning to. Good. He poured himself coffee. Because the last person who knew what you know ended up in the East River. Isabella set down her cup. Is that a threat? A warning. He studied her. You got a death wish, speaking up like that? I have a truth wish. There's a difference. Marco's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Your father, the auditor. He teach you that? She nodded slowly. He teach you what happens when you tell powerful men they're being robbed? He died before he could finish that lesson. Marco's expression shifted. How? Car accident. Brake lines failed. She met his gaze. 3 days after he found irregularities in a client's books. Understanding passed between them. You think it wasn't an accident, Marco said. I know it wasn't. Her voice was steady. I was 16. I couldn't prove it. But I learned to see the patterns he taught me to find. And I swore I'd never ignore them. Marco set down his cup. The boss. He's not a good man. You understand that? I'm starting to. But he's not the worst either. And if you're smart, if you're really as good as he thinks. Marco leaned against the counter. You might be the first person in 20 years who can clean this place up from the inside. Why would you want that? Because I've been driving him since he was 17. I watched his father beat the idealism out of him. Watch the council turn him into this. He gestured vaguely. He's got a choice coming. Be the monster they made, or be something else. You might tip the scales. Before Isabella could respond, Luciano appeared in the doorway. Marco, leave us. The driver nodded once and left. Luciano walked to the window, hands in his pockets. He told you I'm dangerous. He told me you're complicated. Same thing. Not really. He turned. Are you always this difficult? Are you always this paranoid? This time, he actually smiled. Come on, time to see what you're really working with. She found it at 2 a.m., buried in a subsidiary's quarterly audit. Not the oceanic fraud, something else entirely. A shell network routing weapons payments through agricultural exports, cryptocurrency laundered as venture capital, oil tankers with falsified manifests. Barreti Global wasn't a front. It was the nervous system of an empire. Isabella sat back, hands shaking. The numbers didn't just tell a story. They told dozens arms deals, trafficking routes, politicians bought and sold like stocks. I should run, but she kept digging. She found the next irregularity in an Estonian holding company. Microtransactions bouncing to Dubai, then depositing into. Her breath stopped. Barreti Holdings. The rival family wasn't just circling. They were inside, bleeding Luciano's empire from within. She printed the evidence and went to find him. He was in the study, shirtless, a glass of whiskey in hand, staring out at the city. A scar ran from collarbone to ribs jagged, old, the kind you get from a knife that meant to kill. In the corner of the room sat a Steinway grand piano, black and gleaming. You're supposed to be asleep, he said without turning. The Estonian shell isn't yours, it's theirs. The Barretis are using your infrastructure, and they're setting you up to take the fall with Interpol. Now he turned. She showed him the printout, watched his jaw tighten as he scanned the numbers. He grabbed his phone. Cancel the Geneva transfer, lock the Dubai accounts, pull the car. He looked at her. You just saved my life. I followed the money. Why? His gaze held hers. Why protect me? She didn't have an answer, not one that made sense. Because someone wants you dead, she said finally. And I don't share my work. The corner of his mouth lifted. Your work? You asked me to find the rot. I found it. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then, quietly, I'm starting to believe you're real. As opposed to a trap, a test, a fever dream. He set down his glass and walked to the piano, ran his fingers across the keys without pressing them. My mother played. Before she died. This was hers. Isabella hadn't expected that. Personal history. Vulnerability. Do you play? She asked. Not anymore. He looked at the keys like they were a language he'd forgotten. Some things you put away when you become what I am. What are you? He met her eyes. Come on. If you're going to dismantle my empire, you should at least see all of it. He led her to a room she hadn't known existed past a biometric lock, down a steel corridor, into a bunker lined with servers and monitors. This is Barreti's real ledger, he said. Everything. The clean and the dirty. The legal and the less legal. She stared at the screens. Shipping routes, bank codes, names she recognized from news headlines. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Follow the silence, Bella. The numbers that don't speak are the ones lying. But her father had also said, there's a difference between finding the truth and becoming complicit in the lie. Why show me this? She asked quietly. Because you're not afraid of it. He stood beside her, close enough that she felt his warmth. Most people see the monster. You see the mechanism. She glanced at him. What if I use this against you? Then I'm a fool. His eyes held hers. But I don't think you will. Why not? Because you could have run tonight. And you didn't. He was right. She could have taken the evidence to the FBI, the press, anyone. But instead, she'd come to warn him. Why? She stared at the screens at the evidence of crimes she couldn't ignore, attached to a man she couldn't quite condemn. Her father had died for finding patterns like these. Died because he spoke truth to power. And here she was, standing in the heart of that same kind of power, choosing to stay. I need to think, she whispered. About what? About whether I'm saving you or damning myself. Luciano didn't respond immediately. Then, those might be the same thing. She looked at him. Really looked. Saw the exhaustion in his shoulders, the weight of choices that had calcified into scars. My father taught me to find the truth, she said. But he also taught me that the truth without context is just data. He always wanted to know why. Why the numbers were wrong. Why someone lied. And why does a man who runs an empire of crimes keep a piano he won't play? Luciano's expression shifted. Because some parts of who I was are worth remembering. Even if I can't go back to them. Isabella turned back to the screens. I'll help you, but not blindly. Meaning I'll find your leaks. I'll protect your empire from the people trying to steal it. She met his gaze. But if I find something that crosses a line, I can't live with trafficking, slavery, targeting innocents, I'm out. And I'll take evidence with me. It was a gamble. A threat. A boundary. Luciano stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Deal. Just like that? You're the first person in 20 years who's asked for a line at all. He held out his hand. Let's see if I can stay on the right side of it. She shook it, and felt the ground shift beneath her feet. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about choice, his and hers, and neither of them knew where it would lead. She arrived like a scalpel wrapped in silk. Valeria Moretti stepped out of a black town car at dawn. Platinum hair swept into a chignon. Wearing an ivory coat that probably cost more than Isabella's degree. Isabella saw her from the second-floor hallway standing too close to Luciano in the foyer, gloved hand on his sleeve. Darling, you look exhausted. Valeria's voice carried like perfume. Running your empire on espresso and paranoia? Then she spotted Isabella at the top of the stairs. Her smile stayed perfect. Her eyes turned to glass. Well, you must be the intern everyone's whispering about. She ascended the stairs, heels clicking. The accountant with delusions of relevance? Isabella came down to meet her. I audit ledgers, not fairy tales. Valeria laughed bright, brittle. Oh, I like her. Pity spirit doesn't buy loyalty. That's enough. Luciano's voice cut through the air like a closing door. But Valeria had already turned back to him, voice dropping to something intimate. Father's hosting the annual gala tomorrow. He expects you. A glance at Isabella. He expects decorum. That evening, Marco found Isabella in the library. You should know about her, he said, settling into a chair across from her. Valeria? She and the boss were engaged. 5 years ago. Political arrangement between families. Marco's expression was carefully neutral. She was in love with him. He was practical. What happened? He called it off. Said he wouldn't build a marriage on strategy. Marco shook his head. She took it as rejection. Her father took it as an insult. That's when the Barreti alliance started cracking. Isabella absorbed this. So I'm a reminder of what she lost, and a target. Marco leaned forward. She's not just jealous, kid. She's dangerous. Her family's been consolidating power, and if she can't have him, she'll settle for destroying him. Why are you telling me this? Because the boss won't. He thinks protection means keeping you in the dark. Marco stood. But I drove your father home twice. He talked about you. Said you were smart enough to see through any con. He paused at the door. Don't let Luciano's silence be one of them. Isabella didn't attend the gala. She watched it from her laptop, the live stream, the reporters. Luciano in a tuxedo that made him look like old-world royalty. Then Valeria appeared at his side, draped in sapphire, leaning close to a camera. We never truly ended things. It was a strategic pause. We're re-engaged, actually. The headline hit within the hour. Mafia. Prince and Senator's heiress reunite. Isabella felt something crack in her chest. Not heartbreak. Not yet. But the first splinter of a possibility she'd been trying not to name. She closed the laptop, packed a bag, found her keys. She made it to the garage before headlights flared. Luciano's SUV blocked the exit. He got out slowly, still in his tuxedo, tie loosened. I won't be your secret, she said. Or your pawn. He didn't ask for the keys. He took them. Then he raised his voice not to her, but to the shadows where two of Valeria's people stood with cameras. Valeria Barreti is dead to me. As of tonight, anyone who insults Isabella Cruz disappears. The cameras vanished. He turned back to her. You're not leaving. Why not? Because you're not theirs to use. He stepped closer. And you're not mine to lose. She stared at him, searching for the lie. Found none. What am I then? He hesitated. The first person in 10 years who sees me and doesn't flinch. You're wrong, she said quietly. I flinch constantly. I just don't run. His expression softened. Why not? I don't know yet. She looked at the suitcase in his hand. Maybe because you gave me a choice back there, a line I could draw. Nobody's done that in a long time. He set down the suitcase. Valeria lied. We're not engaged. We'll never be. Because of me? Because of her. He ran a hand through his hair. She wants power. I want. He trailed off. What? Something I don't have a name for. His gaze held hers. But it looks like someone who calls me out in boardrooms and threatens to turn me in if I cross lines. Despite everything, Isabella almost smiled. That's a terrible basis for whatever this is. I know. You're a criminal. I know. I'm supposed to be invisible. You failed. Spectacularly. This time she did smile. Small, reluctant, real. He picked up her suitcase. Come back inside. Not because I'm ordering you, because I'm asking. She looked at him, really looked. At the exhaustion, the hope, the man standing between who he was and who he might become. One condition, she said. Name it. No more lies. Not about Valeria, not about what you do, not about why you're keeping me here. The truth might scare you. The lies already did. He nodded slowly. Deal. She followed him back inside. That night, she heard him outside her door again. Not pacing. Just standing. And this time, she opened it. They didn't touch, didn't speak. Just stood on either side of the threshold, acknowledging what was building between them. Then he said, so quietly she almost missed it. Thank you. For staying. Thank you for asking. He left, but they both knew something had shifted. They came at 2:48 a.m. 3 men, tactical gear, through the rooftop helipad. Isabella heard the first guard fall, then another. She rolled off the bed, grabbed her phone, and hit the panic button Luciano had shown her. Her door exploded inward. A hand grabbed her ankle. She kicked, screamed, clawed, gunfire. Close, deafening. Then Luciano, barefoot, bleeding from his temple, threw himself between her and the shooter. But he wasn't alone. Marco appeared in the doorway, weapon raised, firing with practiced precision. Between them, they dropped 2 attackers. The third fled. Then, Luciano collapsed. Isabella and Marco dragged him to his suite. The private doctor was dead in the hall, throat cut. "I can't do this," Isabella said, staring at the blood pooling beneath him. "You have to." Marco thrust a medical kit into her hands. "I'll watch the doors. You keep him alive." Her hands shook as she boiled water, sterilized a needle, threaded sutures. Her father's voice. "Steady hands, Bella. Numbers need precision. So does everything else that matters." She worked until her vision blurred. Luciano drifted in and out, fever burning through him. At one point, he caught her wrist. "The night you spoke in that boardroom, I felt alive. Don't talk. You'll tear the stitches. You looked at me and saw me. Not the Don, just a man being lied to." Tears slipped down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Stay." He tried to smile. "Bossy. You have no idea." When his breathing steadied, when the bleeding stopped, she finally let herself collapse into the chair beside his bed. Marco appeared in the doorway. "You did good, kid. Is he? He'll live. Thanks to you." Marco handed her a glass of water. "But we've got a problem." "What?" This wasn't random. Someone on the inside gave them access codes, patrol schedules, your room number. He met her gaze. "Someone in the council wants you both dead." She went back to the servers. Found the payment for the hit, not from the Morettis. From Don Rinaldi, one of Luciano's own council elders. The man who'd sat silent during her first boardroom revelation. The man who'd voted for Oceanic's approval every quarter. It wasn't just about the fraud. Rinaldi had been skimming from Oceanic and working with the Morettis. When Isabella exposed the fraud, she'd threatened his entire operation. The attack wasn't meant to kill Luciano, not at first. It was meant to isolate him, remove his protection. Then, when the syndicate fractured, Rinaldi would seize control. She found the final piece. A coordinated cyber strike, scheduled in 72 hours, to wipe Barreti Global's core ledgers and trigger a financial collapse. Before she could wake Luciano, a messenger arrived at the gate. A severed finger in a velvet box. A note in elegant script. "Hand over the intern, or we burn your empire. Enzo Moretti." She showed him when he woke, pale and stitched but alert. He read it, then smiled, slow, terrifying. He picked up the phone. "Tell Enzo Moretti to bring gasoline." The council summoned them at noon. 12 elders in a stone chamber beneath St. Agnes Cathedral, faces carved by decades of blood and silence. Don Rinaldi sat at the head of the crescent, expression carefully neutral. He spoke first. "The girl is a liability. The Morettis want her head. Interpol whispers her name. But she holds keys to our survival." Murmurs of agreement around the table. "An unclaimed woman is a weapon anyone can wield," Rinaldi continued. "But a Don's wife? She is sacred under council law. She cannot be touched by rival families without declaring war. She cannot be compelled to testify under spousal privilege." He leaned forward. "The solution is clear. Marry her. Make her yours in blood and oath." All eyes turned to Luciano. But it was Isabella who spoke. "And if I refuse?" Rinaldi's smile was thin. "Then you have no protection. The Morettis will take you. Interpol will subpoena you. And everything you've seen will bury us all, including you." "Convenient," she said. "Sounds like you've backed me into a corner." "We've offered you a door," Rinaldi corrected. "What you do with it is your choice." Luciano's jaw tightened. "The council doesn't get to dictate. The council protects its own," another elder interrupted. "If she's not family, she's a threat. That's law." Isabella felt the trap closing. But then she looked at Luciano, saw the frustration, the helplessness, the barely contained rage at being forced into this. She thought of her father, of the choice he'd made to speak truth that got him killed. She'd promised herself she'd never be complicit. But she'd also promised she'd draw a line. And this? A marriage that protected them both from enemies on all sides? This was still a choice. Maybe not the one she'd imagined, but a choice nonetheless. "I'll marry him," she said clearly. "On one condition." Rinaldi raised an eyebrow. "You're negotiating with the council?" "I'm negotiating with myself." She stood. "I'll marry him. I'll help him. But the trafficking stops. The weapons deals to sanctioned regimes stop. The dirty money that funds genuinely evil things, that stops." She met Luciano's gaze. "Or I walk, wife or not. And I take everything I know with me." Silence. Then Luciano stood beside her. "Agreed." Rinaldi's expression darkened. You're letting her dictate terms. She's offering to clean up the mess you've all made while skimming profits. Luciano's voice was cold. I'll wed her tonight. And tomorrow, we start cutting rot. Starting with traitors in this room. Rinaldi went very still. You think I don't know? Luciano pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. Isabella found the Estonian shell, the Dubai accounts, the payments to the hit squad that came for us. He leaned forward. You've been working with the Morettis, and you're done. Rinaldi's face drained of color. 2 guards appeared behind him. Take him, Luciano said quietly. As Rinaldi was dragged away, screaming betrayal, the remaining elders shifted uncomfortably. Luciano looked at each one in turn. Anyone else want to question her terms? Silence. Good. We marry tonight. Isabella ran. Not to the gates. To the east balcony overlooking the river. He found her there, city lights reflecting in her eyes. Running won't change the decree, he said. I'm not running from the council. She gripped the railing. I'm running from what I'm becoming. He stopped beside her. Didn't touch her. You think this is politics, isn't it? It started that way. But it's not about the law anymore. His voice was raw. It's about you. You're the only one who sees me and stays, who draws lines, and makes me want to stay inside them. She wanted to believe him. But love in this world got people killed. Still she looked at him. Saw the exhaustion, the bruises still fading, the way his hand trembled slightly when he thought she wasn't looking. What if I break your heart? She whispered. He almost smiled. You already have. I'm still standing. He took her hand. Let her feel his pulse steady, real, alive because of her. I don't need a wife to protect my empire, he said quietly. I need you to protect me from becoming the monster they made. To remind me where the lines are when I forget. She stared at their joined hands. I don't know if I can do this. Neither do I, he squeezed gently. But I want to try. If you do, she thought of her father. Of the last thing he'd said to her. The world's full of gray, Bella. Sometimes the best we can do is find someone worth navigating it with. One more condition, she said. Anything. If I say we've crossed a line, if I say we need to stop, you listen. No matter what. Deal. She didn't pull away. And in that silence, something shifted between them. Not love. Not yet. But the first fragile foundation of it. They married in the stone chamber at midnight. Isabella wore an ivory suit, sharp, elegant, unafraid. Luciano slid a ring onto her finger. Black onyx, carved with his family crest. No grand speech. No oath to the council. Just a look between them, uncertain, terrifying, real. The elders bowed. Not to him. To both of them. The next morning, Enzo Moretti made his move. A charity gala. Chandeliers, champagne, and hired guns disguised as waitstaff. Isabella saw Valeria watching from the balcony, smiling, satisfied. Marco appeared at her elbow. Something's wrong. The exits are blocked. Service staff I don't recognize. Then the lights went out. A hand clamped over Isabella's mouth, chemical sweetness pressed to her face. She fought, kicked, bit, scratched, but darkness took her. She woke in a cold concrete room, wrists bound. Enzo Moretti stepped into the light. Behind him, Valeria. Where is the core ledger? He asked softly. Isabella said nothing. Valeria knelt, brushing hair from her face with mock tenderness. Luciano will trade you for that ledger in a heartbeat. Men like him don't keep what they can't control. Isabella met her gaze. Then you don't know him at all. Valeria's smile turned sharp. I know he chose power over me, and he'll do the same to you. No, Isabella said. He chose freedom from you. There's a difference. Valeria's hand lashed out a slap that split Isabella's lip. Enzo grabbed Valeria's wrist. We need her intact. Hours passed. No call. No offer. Then Enzo's phone buzzed. He read the message. His face went still. He didn't ask for terms, Enzo murmured. He just sent our Eastern operations' entire transaction history to the SEC and declared open war on any family that harbors you. Valeria's face drained of color. He wouldn't. He just did. Enzo looked at Isabella with something like respect. He's burning bridges for you. Luciano didn't come alone. Marco drove. 4 of Luciano's most trusted soldiers rode in the trailing vehicles. But Luciano entered the warehouse first through a service entrance Marco had scouted, cutting power and communications before the assault. He moved through the darkness with practiced silence. When he found the guards, he used suppressed weapons, hand signals, the kind of tactical precision that came from years of training. This wasn't superhuman. This was a man who'd spent his life preparing for war. Marco cleared the east corridor. Luciano took the west. They converged on the back room where Isabella was held. Luciano cut her bonds with steady hands, pulled her close. "I hid the real ledger," she whispered, "in your mother's piano. Inside the soundboard. I noticed it weeks ago. The panel looked loose." He let out a breath. "You've been planning an exit strategy." "I've been planning for everything." She managed a tired smile. "Someone has to." He pressed his lips to her forehead. "You never stop fighting. Neither do you." Marco appeared in the doorway. "We need to move. Moretti reinforcements are 10 minutes out." They ran. Enzo Moretti died 3 days later, not by Luciano's hand, but by his own family's. When Luciano leaked the transaction history, it exposed not just Enzo's operations, but the council members he'd bribed, the politicians he'd bought, the judges he'd compromised. The Moretti empire imploded from within. Valeria fled to Monaco. Last anyone heard, she was living on her father's rapidly depleting fortune, persona non grata in every family that mattered. Isabella stood in Luciano's study, watching news coverage of the arrests. "It's not justice," she said quietly. "Not really." "No," Luciano agreed. "But it's consequences. That's something." She turned to him. "We're still part of this world. We're still complicit." "I know. So what do we do?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "We keep your lines. We clean up what we can. We make it less evil than it was. That's not enough. It's all I have." He met her gaze. "Unless you have a better plan." She did, actually. Over the next 6 months, Isabella restructured Barreti Global from the inside out. She didn't eliminate the criminal empire that would have gotten them both killed, but she redirected it: arms deals to sanctioned regimes, shut down trafficking operations, exposed to Interpol through anonymous tips, dirty money, laundered into legitimate ventures, affordable housing projects, medical clinics in underserved neighborhoods, scholarships for kids like her. It wasn't redemption, but it was movement in the right direction. 3 days after the Moretti collapse, they stood before Barreti Global's board. Luciano's hand rested on her back, not possessive, but present. The men rose as one. When they bowed, it was to her. To the woman who saw the cracks and chose to mend them rather than exploit them. To the wife who ruled beside him not by birth but by brilliance and stubborn morality. That night, in the quiet of his study, Luciano finally said what he'd carried since the day she spoke. "I took you home because you fascinated me. I kept you because you challenged me." He pulled her close. "I married you because you're the only one who rebuilds what I break." Isabella smiled against his shoulder. "Good. Because I've restructured your entire offshore portfolio, and I'm coming for your shell companies next." He laughed quiet. "Rare. Real. You're terrifying. You have no idea." She pulled back to look at him. "I'm still complicit. You know that, right? I'm still part of this. I know, and I hate it sometimes. I know that too." He cupped her face gently. "But you're changing it. One ledger at a time. It's not enough. Maybe not. But it's more than anyone else has done." He kissed her forehead. "And it's more than I thought possible." She leaned into him, feeling the weight of choices that could never be unmade, but also feeling something else. Hope. Fragile and complicated, but real. Outside, the city pulsed with chaos. Inside, a new order had begun. The intern who once outplayed him now ruled beside him. And together, they were building something neither of them had words for yet. Something between redemption and damnation. Something entirely their own. Epilogue 6 months later. Marco found Isabella in the library, surrounded by financial reports. "You look like your father," he said, when he was onto something. She looked up, smiled. "I found another shell. Rinaldi had partners we missed. You gonna burn them?" "Eventually." She closed the laptop. "But first, I'm going to understand them. Figure out what they're protecting, then decide if it's worth keeping or destroying." Marco nodded slowly. "Your father would be proud. And terrified." "Yeah, me too." Luciano appeared in the doorway. "We have a problem." Isabella's heart sank. "What kind?" "The good kind. The board wants to promote you. Make you official CFO." She blinked. That's public. Visible. Very. I'll be a target. You already are. He came to sit beside her. But you'll also have power. Real power. The kind that makes changes stick. She thought about it. About visibility. About the choice between hiding and standing. Her father had stood. It had killed him. But it had also taught her to see patterns no one else saw. And now she had something he hadn't. Protection. Partnership. A chance to do more than just expose corruption. A chance to dismantle it from within. Okay, she said. I'll do it. Luciano smiled. Terrifying and brave. My favorite combination. She kissed him brief, tender, real, complicit, and compromised. Yours. Ours, he corrected. And in that moment, surrounded by evidence of crimes and plans for redemption, they both understood. This wasn't a love story. It was a revolution, quiet, dangerous, imperfect. But it was theirs. And they were just getting started. If you loved diving into Isabella and Luciano's world of danger, intrigue, and forbidden loyalty, don't miss what happens next. Subscribe now, hit the notification bell, and join us as we uncover more dark secrets, shocking betrayals, and impossible choices. Comment below, what would you do if you saw the patterns no one else could?